Okay, I guess we're rolling. All right, yeah, thanks everybody for attending through WebEx and then everybody who's in person. We appreciate it for y'all coming out to so we can talk a little bit about the BID team and what it is and what we do and how all of us can work together to help just help keep students safe. Let's see, so start us off. My name is Drew Peterson and I'm the BID coordinator. And then of course it's Mark Green, the director of the counseling clinic. A lot of times I talk real fast when I'm doing public speaking, so if y'all need me to slow down, just shout out, hey, slow it down a little bit. So the behavioral intervention team, what is it? The BID team, the behavioral intervention team is composed of staff and faculty and serves to provide appropriate referrals to help students achieve academic success while also paying special attention to the safety and security needs of members of the ASU community. So I started this position as the BID coordinator in September, and the way Dr. Petty explained this to me when he was interviewing me was that the behavioral intervention teams, I believe, were formed maybe about 10, 15 years ago or so in response to the rise in school shootings and campus violence that was occurring. And so they developed these behavioral intervention teams to meet and try to identify students of concern. And then through early intervention, and threat assessment and those things, hopefully prevent some of those things from happening and get students who are experiencing that kind of distress, get them help before it escalated to those incidents of violence. I think ASU got their behavioral intervention team. I believe it started in either 2013 or 2014. I might be wrong about that. It might have been just a little bit earlier. But what Dr. Petty said was, while it was formed for the threat assessment and looking out for the risk of violence, it kind of morphed into more of just overall well-being of students, because we really don't see a lot of the risk of violence, to that extent. While that's a component of what we do, like we still do take that very seriously and are on the lookout for those type of things. It's just a lot more broad than that. And really, a lot of the students we end up working with, they have to deal more with just mental distress in terms of anxiety, depression, maybe suicidal ideation, and self-harm. Those four seem to be the big ones, usually related to relationships or school or just extracurricular things. So, and then we try to provide intervention to help those students get through those things they're struggling with. Then provide case management and follow up and things like that. So the BID, what we do is we're composed of different departments, and we meet as a team. We meet once a month, and we review the incident reports that we'll discuss with y'all when you or others submit the incident reports to BID. We review those cases, and then we try to determine, put risk levels for students. Some it might just be a mild risk. Maybe they just need some contact, get some referrals to counseling or RAM pantry or just different resources we have available. Others might need a little more involvement, a little more case management, maybe a little more follow-up just to make sure they're doing okay. But we work as a team to come up with the best interventions for the students. The members on this team include Dr. Petty. He's the chairperson, the executive director of student affairs. He's my boss. Assistant director of student conduct is Randall Jenkins. BID coordinator case manager is myself, Drew Peterson. Director of counseling services, Mark Green. The ASU police department, Chief Adams and Lieutenant Mark West, they represent the police department on the team. Tracy Baker with housing and residential programs, and then the academic coach, Michelle Reed, is part of the team. So these are the core people who we meet once a month to review cases and try to pull information in from all departments to help identify what the best interventions are for students in need. And then these other people, we consult with them as needed. So we have the Office of Student Disability Services, that's Dallas Swafford's over that. Financial aid, Curtis Neal and Human Resources, and then Michelle Miller and Brittany Smith in Title IX. Now, a lot of times with Title IX, we might work together because while Michelle Miller and Brittany Smith might be dealing with a Title IX issue, a student might be experiencing some kind of PTSD from an incident that happened, or severe anxiety or depression from an incident that Michelle Miller is helping her address. So in those situations, Michelle will get me involved and say, hey, they seem like they're dealing with a lot of anxiety or a lot of depression. Can you reach out to them and see if we can help them with that? And so that's when we'll kind of work together with the Title IX office. And so let's talk about the types of referrals a bit. First of all, I'd like to say I appreciate students who are in here right now, because this isn't just, I think some people think that this is just for faculty and staff to submit these reports, but it's for everybody. It's for students, it's for faculty, it's for staff. If you have a friend that you're concerned about and you think they might need possible help, you can submit an incident report on them. I'll go through that here in a little bit, and I'll explain how it can be anonymous if you want. But yeah, it's not just for faculty and staff, it's for students. We've actually had people in the community that aren't even affiliated with ASU get on our website and submit incident reports for students that they're concerned about. So it's for anybody. The types of referrals that come to the behavioral intervention team. So when you submit a referral online, it goes out to the bid. And then I'll usually begin gathering information on it, and then start the process of reaching out to the students, and then bringing in other information to develop interventions to help. We get referrals for academic support. Maybe you notice a student's not doing as well as they used to, or a student struggling. You can submit a bid for that. Substance abuse, of course, you always want to submit something if you feel someone's abusing substances and needs help. Classroom behavioral issues, injury or illness. Injury and illnesses, just last semester, we were having several students, a few different things. Some students were having Tourette's episodes, and several students last year were having seizures, in class. And so a lot of the professors submitted bit reports to us on that. And we were able to work with Disability Office, and then Sam Spooner with the safety, and try to get the professors just some information on how best to handle those situations and what to do, because they didn't really know how to handle that. Sexual assault and harassment, we'll get bit reports for that. Now, the sexual assault, anything relationship-wise and sexual assault will always be referred over to Title IX. But like I said, sometimes we work jointly with them. Student hospitalizations, you can submit a bit report on that. Our office will actually help the student out. If they are hospitalized, we can notify their professors for them. Of course, we're not excusing their absences. That's not what our office does, but we can at least let the professors know that, hey, your student is receiving medical care right now and will be out of class for the next 5 days. It will be the student's job to work with their professor, but we can definitely help them with notifying their professors. Students in distress, that's the big one I was talking about, what we see a lot of, which Mark will go into a little more. But like I said, a lot of the anxiety, depression. Of course, we have suicidal ideations down below this, and then suicidal attempts or self-harming behavior. We do see a lot of that. And then, as I discussed at the beginning, any threatening behavior, of course, you want to submit a bit report on. And we will talk about this a little more, but if you ever feel threatened, like your safety is in jeopardy, either yours or a student's, don't hesitate to call UPD 911, okay? And if you ever feel threatened by any reason, please notify UPD. But then, of course, you'll always want to follow up with us through a bit report, so we can try to help any way we can. Of course, if you're ever in doubt, refer or console, just submit us a report. I mean, if it's just informational, sometimes that stuff's very valuable because you might just submit a report to us about some information on a friend of yours, and maybe they had an active case about something you don't know about, but maybe that information you submitted us, can really help with what we're working with them on. So I will turn it over to Mark.
Thank you, sir. All right. My job is to kind of talk about what does it look like when a student is in concern or distress. Of course, I could probably give you about 50 slides, but I've pared it down to just 3 areas that you may see. And again, these are symptoms of probably things that are happening on the inside. So the most important thing that I can impart to you today is the clue is going to be that a student acts this way normally, but now they're exhibiting other behaviors. Maybe they're odd, maybe they're eccentric, maybe it's just a big change. That's a kind of a warning sign or a clue to you to say, maybe there's something else going on. So some of these things are really easy to see, and some of them are going to be a little bit more difficult. But obviously, poor attendance, kind of withdrawing, missing classes, dropping grades, uncharacteristically poor work. So a student who has been doing fantastic is now doing not so great. Concentration, very hard, but you can easily see that if someone is not present in the moment. What are they thinking about? Are they having racing thoughts? Are there other symptoms of things like bipolar depression, ADHD? Those are all significant issues for college students and really anyone. Anxiety about exams and assignments. So again, you kind of see anxiety can look like fidgety, nervous, just apprehensive, always on edge, things like that. Repeated requests for special consideration. So this might be more a professor or a staff member. A student keeps coming up to you and saying, hey, can you give me more grace on this? Or I'm having a really hard time. And of course, those things do happen. And we want you to take that seriously and see if you can work with students in any ways in that situation. Difficulty working on teams. So we're going to talk more about this in a minute. Interpersonal relationships. It's hard to get along with people, hard to connect with them. And then this one is a big deal, is inappropriate or disjointed responses. What that really means is there's disorganization of speech and behavior. So sometimes students will just exhibit odd and eccentric behavior. And maybe they've never done it before, or maybe that's kind of part of their personality. But a lot of times this can feed into psychosis. If you know what that is, it's a possible psychotic break where people have delusions and hallucinations, and they're kind of losing touch with reality. The tough part about this age group, this 18 to 25 range, is that's where a lot of people who do slip into schizophrenia, this is where it happens. And so if you see someone dealing with that, you're going to know it, because they're going to be talking kind of strangely. They're going to be maybe saying some weird or eccentric things that are not normal in everyday conversation. Any of these things that you see, again, the more signs and the more clues that they have, the more likely it would be a good idea to submit a report. And again, I wouldn't think of yourself as like, I'm tattling on someone. They're not going to get in trouble when they get a report. They are going to be met with care and concern, and our job is to reach out and put safety nets under these students and people. All right, so the behavioral signs, what this looks like from the outward perspective. Maybe the personal hygiene is taking a big hit, not combing my hair anymore. I might have more body odor than I normally do. That's weird to say out loud, but rapid weight gain or weight loss, that is one of the signs of depression. Also signs of eating disorders, which can be highly concerning from a medical standpoint. Changes in sleep patterns, again, you might not see this, but it might show up more as someone who's disheveled or possibly falling asleep in class oftentimes. Markings of self-harm on the body. I mean, some students who cut or hurt themselves are very open about it, and they wear short sleeve shirts and kind of display it. And that could be a good thing in the sense that it's a cry for help, and it's saying, hey, I'm showing you this to the world because I want people to maybe care, reach out to me, help me. Self-harm doesn't always mean that someone is thinking about attempting suicide, but it certainly is a way to kind of control that internal anguish that they have, and that pain through an external means. some of these things, again, like we're looking to try to identify these symptoms and clues so that you can consider having a conversation with someone that you're concerned about, a friend, a student, a colleague. Intense, traumatic, and volatile emotions. Again, when people are struggling with mental health, they don't always respond appropriately. And there may be loud outbursts. There may be just strange, inappropriate defensiveness. Those are definitely reasons to have another conversation. Does anyone know what anhedonia is? It's a crazy word. Looking at my chat. So anhedonia is basically, I used to love playing volleyball, and now I don't even want to do it anymore. It's not even fun to me. It's another sign of depression. So it's kind of thinking about people who are engaged in certain activities, things that used to bring them enjoyment, and now nothingness, blahness. Huge sign of depression or long-term depression. Verbal or written references to distress, suicidal ideation, homicidal ideation. This can include social media. I know people write things on social media all the time, right? Sometimes it's very clear, like, hey, look at me, I'm at a party. And sometimes it's like, hey, I'm out of here. What does that mean? Does that mean I'm out of here, like I'm leaving this classroom right now? Or does that mean like considering leaving the world? And so again, like think about yourself as someone who cares. I mean, you obviously came to this training, invested an hour of your life in it, which is awesome. What do you want to do? Like when you lay your head on that pillow tonight, you saw that post, like are you going to want to be like, you know, I did all I can do. I reached out to them. I filed the students' concern reports, at least the university or someone else knows about it, so that they can reach out to you. Because we don't want you to bear the burden of this all on your shoulders. It's a lot when you're kind of helping and taking care of another person. It can add some stress to your life. And that's why we want to equip you with this knowledge and these reports so that you can have the university lean on and help you support people who are struggling. Again, with that said, I would too say like it's never someone else's responsibility to make sure someone is not dead. Like if someone is going to go and kill themselves in the woods, there's probably not a lot you can do about it, right? I mean, you can look at these warning signs, try to intervene along the way, call their parents, drive out there, whatever it is. But if someone ends up doing something very harmful to themselves, ultimately it's not your fault. But let's do all we can to try to stop that from happening, right? We talked a lot about disorganized speech and behavior, so I'm not going to go there this time. All right, interpersonal signs, difficulty getting along with others. Again, when I'm depressed, when I'm anxious, when I'm dealing with losing touch with reality, I tend not to want to be around people. So most of the time, the way this is going to be expressed is you don't see them anymore. They're not coming to classes, they're not coming to the social events anymore. They're isolating from friends and family. Avoiding classes and organizations, defensiveness, tempers, outbursts. Why do you think this one's on here? A profound sense of peace. Why would that be a warning sign of something going wrong? Ideas? Say it again. A sense of something coming to an end, yeah. And a lot of times people who are suicidal, when they've made that final decision, they do feel better. They do feel peace because they know that it's coming to an end soon. So if you see these signs, okay, we don't expect you to be counselors. Obviously, a 1-hour training is not going to equip you to be a therapist or a psychologist. But what we would want you to do and encourage you to do is try to have a conversation. Okay? And here's just some really simple tips. We're actually going to do a role play, so you all get a chance to laugh at us in a little bit. To show you what this might look like, because I mean, we want this to be really practical. I think the hardest part is, hey, I noticed these things going on in this person I care about's life, but how do I talk about it? What am I going to say? Are there wrong things to say? Are there right things to say? These are all points of anxiety, and those are understandable. So we're going to try to show you some good ways to do it and maybe some poor ways to do it. All right, so if you were a faculty, staff, or even a student and you report to someone, maybe you should tell your supervisor, hey, I've noticed in my class this student is doing this, this, and this. What do you think we should do? Or another great reason why it's important to consult is maybe another person is seeing some of those similar behaviors and collaborate, and you can provide all that information in a detailed report so that we know how best to reach out and serve that student. Consult with BIT or counseling. So I do get calls and emails a lot of times about these situations, which is perfectly fine. I'm glad to take them, and I'll be willing to help as much as I can. However, I would just make one distinction. If you're going to call and talk to me about a situation or a student that you're concerned about, or anyone, if I know that student and if I know they're already in counseling, there's only so much information I can give you back, because we want to protect everyone's confidentiality. Okay. So I would say, as a general rule, if you want to consult or talk to someone, I'd call Drew first, because he is a lot more free to share things back and forth. Otherwise, it does kind of put both of us in a tight spot where I can't share with you, so I kind of leave an open loop of communication, and you're like, well, this joker is not even helping me out. But if you talk to Drew, he can be more open and share, and then he can also let me in on it too. And so we can discuss it that way. So I would just say, in general, talk to him. If you can't get a hold of him, I'll be glad to help in any way I can. All right, so if you're going to go have this conversation, do it in private. I shared this terrible story of this really well-meaning student. I think it was at Ram Roundup a couple of years ago. One of the leaders brought up this student to me and said, hey, I want you to introduce you to the director of counseling in case you ever need counseling in the future, which is nice. It's a good heart. But the reality was, I was sitting around this table with 10 other faculty and staff members at ASU, so it's kind of embarrassing. So let's talk. That's a little different than addressing it in private, but make sure you find a private space. If I'm around 15 people and I need to share something, I'm probably less likely to do it if there's that many people around than if I'm just one-on-one in a corner somewhere. Take your time. This is not the time to be pulling out my phone or being distracted. Of course, you have your own life to live. You need to know your limitations. Like, again, you can't take charge of someone else's life. You can't devote your whole time to their safety. But in this moment, these are things. I had a student just 2 days ago in my office counseling, and he was sharing something that he never shared with anybody in the world before. So powerful. And he was a tough guy, and he got a little choked up. And it was actually, we almost went over our session time, but I knew it was so important for him to get that out that I couldn't cut him off, because I didn't want him to feel any rejection. But take your time. One thing you can do is show and communicate your concern and care. You can do that through body language. You can do that through tone. You can do that through physical touch. Maybe just like a pat on the shoulder, a hug, if you have that kind of relationship with them. But let them know, hey, I'm here because I care about you. Most people don't share these things because they're worried about being judged. They're worried about being a burden on other people. But let them know, like, I'm spending my time. I'm investing in you. This is your moment. Please tell me. Another thing to do is identify specific observations. So what have I seen? I've noticed that you haven't been coming to classes lately. That's not very intimidating or threatening. Maybe that will open the door for them to say, yeah, the reason why is because my grandmother died and my grandpa died, and I'm just really having a hard time with my grief. So try to be very specific and say, I've noticed, like, you used to hang out with us all the time, and now we don't see you anymore. I'm concerned about you. What's going on? So communicate that care, which promotes an openness. It gives them a space to talk freely, hopefully. All right, have you all heard the quotation? It's old but classic. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Exactly. And so one thing you can do, we learned this in Counselor 101, is validate them. So if someone starts spitting out to you, depressed, I'm sad, I'm overwhelmed with school, I also have to work 45 hours a week, I can hardly pay my bills. So something you might say before you say anything else is, wow, I'm really sorry, I didn't know you had so much going on in your life. So what you're doing is you're saying, hey, I get it. You're not saying I get it, because we don't want to say I get it, but we're saying, whoa, that's a lot. You should be stressed. It's okay that you're frustrated, anxious, overwhelmed. So try to validate them. Okay? Even the hard part is sometimes you'll hear things that you're just like, that's not that big of a deal. We never want to communicate that, right? We don't want them to feel rejected for opening up, because that will close down the communication, and they're not going to be honest with you about the rest of the things that are going on. All right, know your limitations. Again, you're not a counselor, most likely. You're not a therapist. You're not trained in this. So if this gets heavy duty, Or like Drew was saying earlier, if this gets to a point of like, I fear for my safety right now, like maybe we need to call the cops in this situation. Maybe I need to bring a professor in, or if I see someone else around into the situation, or maybe I need to refer them, which is most likely the case. We want to either refer them to BIT, possibly refer them to counseling services for some therapy, but know that it's okay that you don't have all the answers. Know that it's okay that you're not always going to say the perfect, the right thing. The other person is probably so overwhelmed with their stuff in this moment. They're not so concerned about what you're saying or not saying. They're more concerned to have someone who cares enough to listen, hear me out, and let me express this. So I'm just saying that to try to take the pressure off you, because I know it can be an intense situation. And always file that students of concern report. Again, I think about it like this. This is the worst case scenario, like life or death, suicide, homicide, things like that. If I knew something was wrong and I didn't file that student concern report, regardless of what I said earlier, it's not my fault. But did I do all that I could to stop that situation? Another thing to think about is my friend is considering suicide or something. And I was just like, well, I don't want to take him to the hospital. That feels like a punishment. That would be hard. Again, am I going to be okay with my response? Will I feel incredible? I mean, you might feel incredible guilt anyway, but take every threat seriously. All right, these are just some things of what not to do. Okay, so they're almost the inverse of what we just talked about. Don't immediately try to fix or solve the problem. I know this is a natural instinct and reaction for most of us, because it's like, I'm hearing this stress. Let's figure out how to fix it. And there is a great place for that, and we want you to do that. But first, start with that validation, start with that open-mindedness and that listening, lack of judgment. And then if they start to feel better as they're opening up, which most people inevitably do, then let's say, hey, what are some things that we could do to make this situation better? Are there any things that you haven't tried yet that could be helpful? Here's another one. I know exactly what you're going through, right? So is the reality that anyone knows exactly what anyone else is going through? Probably not. And the other thing it does is it takes the focus off of them and it puts it on me. Now they're starting to take care of me. They're starting to worry about me, or they're annoyed because I totally am not listening to them or hearing their situation. We live in Texas. I've been in the South now for like a long time, 25 years or so. This is what we do. We get over it, we toughen it out, pull ourselves together. Again, there's a place for that. I think there are some times where we could say that to someone after you build a good relationship, after you have a great rapport with someone. But probably initially, if you're telling me about the stress in your life and I say, dude, just toughen up, is that going to promote conversation or close it down? Close it down, most likely, for sure. Good question.
But I'm gonna leave.
You'll wait? Okay, cool. Don't take the situation too lightly. Please follow up with the student. Again, I don't want you to be a caretaker. I don't want you to be their counselor, whatever role that you're playing in their life. But it would be awesome, like in housing, like follow up with the student occasionally. Make sure that they're doing okay. Check in with them just to see what's going on in their role. If you're a professor or a staff member, that can be helpful to a student. I know you've heard every story in the book, every excuse in the book, but if there's something you could do to alleviate a situation without it causing too much negative precedence, maybe we should consider doing it. Maybe I can give you an extra extension on your paper because you did just lose a grandparent. Maybe not. It's all up to your syllabus. So I'm not going to try to dictate what professors do. All right, again, file a report. What you're really doing in that situation is you're alerting others. You're saying, I want other people in the university to help me with this because I'm not sure everything to do. Okay. When do I call the police? Yes, go for it, man.
With the other side, yes. I work with students, and this is very important information because, like I said, I'm learning, but I'm not the expert in the area. But I would like to learn, and I would like to have probably word by word, what can I say in this kind of situation? Because the student, they're not gonna tell me, oh, I'm under a lot of anxiety or I'm under a lot of stress, and I mean they're not going to diagnose themselves. They're gonna say like kind of this is really going on in my house, and
I need to know what to say. I mean, literally word by word. No, why not?
All right, Vinay. If you were going to read off a script of something I gave you to say, are you being real? Are you being genuine?
Mark, but listen.
I'm listening.
Sometimes I need to practice even my gestures because, like I said, I'm not the expert, and I'm just kind of the messenger to say, like, okay, for the moment, you need to. I'm encouraging you to see the expert, right? But at the moment, of course, I'm new in this position, and like, I know how exactly you feel. Everything is gonna be fine. And in Mexican culture, it's like, hey, blah blah, hey, nothing. You're gonna be fine. No. Tomorrow you're gonna be fine. Just put big flapper up and you're gonna be fine. Hey, no, you're crying? No, you don't have to cry. Men don't cry. So it is difficult, and especially, of course, you're talking in Spanish, and then if you're talking in English, sometimes I'm gonna say the wrong word, especially in English. So that's why I'm asking for help. Probably, maybe to say the right word, just to give it to you. Just kind of, okay, I completely understand the situation, but for the moment, here you go.
Here you go to me, or here you
Yes,
go?
for the experts.
Yeah, you should. Like, bring them over, walk them over.
Yes, but imagine, I mean, I don't want to be like kind of, ooh, that's happened to you. I mean, and I'm not the only one. See, because we're working with the students, office coordinators, advisors, academic coach, anybody. But I think it will be beneficial is like what not to do or some of the expression that you may say to the students and we may memorize. Please.
I guess she said just asking for
I hear you. I know exactly where you're going.
Because you're asking me like kind of asking them with heart, and I'm like, sometimes no, just kind of.
Okay, but think about when you're stressed out in your life, right? And you maybe want to share that with somebody else. Like, are you totally focused on what they're going to say back to you and like hope that they don't say the wrong thing or say the right thing? Or are you just like wanting to be heard and understood, cared for? What do you think?
Because I did it wrong, right?
No,
So it was like, oh, this happened to me, like, oh, that happened to me as well, and this is what I did. I'm like, I turned it to me, and I'm like,
you're trying to connect. It's a good
that was
heart.
my intention. Say like,
Yeah.
hey, you're not a stranger. I mean, that can happen. Everything's gonna be fine. Tomorrow's gonna be a good day. But that was my intention. But it's like, oh, that's supposed.
Did it turn out okay?
Yes,
Okay.
but it's like I would like to learn better vocabulary to say like, well, that's not I'm not the focus. It's just like probably if I learn the better expression, it's gonna turn out better on the student.
So you want me to make a handout of good expressions to say?
Something like this
Okay, we can
to
work.
say like kind of if the student is saying, well, this is what really happened to me, and then you can respond, and then something, yes, I completely understand.
So here's just a really basic tip. Okay, something you learn in counseling 101. When someone says something to you, you can like literally parrot it back. So if I say, I just got broken up with over the weekend and I'm really hurting. So you could say, it sounds like you're going through a lot because you just got broken up with, right? So I heard what you said and I reflected it back to you. So now you know, at least I know what you're saying and I'm understanding. And then you're just leaving the door open for them to go, where do they need to go next, right? That might open up the door for more communication. I think, unfortunately, we can't keep going on this just due to time, but we can always talk more. But really, just the reason why I asked that about being genuine is because I know you have a good heart. I mean, we've only talked a few times, but you care. So I want you to let that care out through you, who you are. I mean, if you're trying to be like a counselor or trying to say the right thing, you're not being very present. So you're going to miss what you could say because you're trying to say the right thing. Does that make sense? So, I mean, again, I'm not saying like, let's go hug a bunch of students, but let's, that's how are you doing? And again, I don't want you to be the counselor. I want you to kind of get out of that situation. I mean, hear the story and say, dang, that's tough. Let's go over to the counselor. I know there's a couple good people over there who can really help you. So I want you to kind of get out of that situation quickly, relatively. Makes sense? All right, we do have to go on. Thanks, though. It's a good conversation. All right, so we talked about this. When do I call the police? When we feel like we're in danger, when we're scared, when we're worried. We do not want you to put yourself in a bad situation, staying after hours at midnight unless you're in housing. That's your world. But you guys have a great relationship with the police. All right, we're going to look at this really quickly. This might be very practical, hopefully. Let me see if I can pull this up. All right, we have a beautiful flow chart right here. Okay. See this? Okay, so this is a decision tree, and I'm not sharing it. Why is it not showing on my screen? Let me stop sharing this one. My apologies. Even though the world has transitioned to virtual, I sometimes am not great at it. Why won't you exit? Stop sharing all that. Okay, I'm gone, right? My PowerPoint's gone. Thank you. We did it. So proud. Okay. So if there's someone in front of you, this is kind of just focused mostly on suicide. If there's an identified suicidal student and they're right there in front of you, we need to figure out one question. Is this an imminent threat? Which means, or is there a high likelihood, a high probability that they're going to kill themselves if no one intervenes, if no one does anything? If the answer is yes, then we do want to call campus police. Or at least if they're willing to come to the counseling center and it's during business hours, bring them there now. If they want to go to a hospital, a mental health hospital, we can drive them to a mental health hospital. That's all good. We want to get them to a place where they're not going to be as an imminent danger, imminent threat. Okay? These little orange boxes down here just kind of say what needs to be done. We don't have to worry about those. If we're uncertain if it's an imminent threat, I'm going to reference this. If you are watching online and you want one of these wonderful Columbia screening tools, please come to Counseling Services. We have a whole box of them. But basically, I'm gonna go as fast as I can. We don't have a lot of time. These are just simple questions you ask to figure out if someone's suicidal. Have you wished you were dead or wished you could go to sleep and not wake up? If they answer yes, then you go to the next three questions. Have you been thinking about how you might want to die? Have you had these thoughts and some intention of acting on them? And number 5, have you started to work out or worked out the details of a plan to kill yourself? Do you intend to carry out this plan? Again, if they're asking yes, it gives you a blueprint of where to go next. And finally, have you ever done anything, started to do anything, or prepared to do anything to end your life? If they say yes, was this within the past 3 months? And if they're saying yes to that, then we do need to intervene. We do need to get them to a hospital, an emergency room, have the police involved, because they're an imminent risk. Okay. Now, if they're saying no, especially to the first question, that's great. Like, have you ever wished that you were dead or wished you could go to sleep, not wake up? If they say no, that's great. And maybe we could ask a couple follow-up questions like, well, I guess not. We don't really have to ask any follow-up questions. So yes. Why 3 months? Why 3 months? I think it's a window of time. I mean, if it's longer than that, the likelihood of acting upon those impulses is reduced. So again, if you want one of these, this is for those structured people like VNA who want a blueprint. Like, this is a great tool that you can use. And again, let me back up and say, okay, these questions are not easy to ask. Not a lot of people like to ask the question, are you suicidal? Have you thought about killing yourself? Because what if they say yes? And again, this is a great tool because if they say yes, at least we have more questions to ask. And we can literally read this even though we're trembling inside. We have a great training, suicide prevention training coming up in March. That's going to focus so much. It's going to focus all on suicide. It's going to be an hour and a half to 2 hours long. If you want to take that, please check it out. Check your emails for that. It will give you more equipment to go through something like this. But yeah, I do validate that as a hard thing to ask. Okay. All right. If they say no, they're not in imminent danger, then you can still walk them over to counseling services. We're open Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. If it's after hours, Drew has got some awesome ASU crisis helpline cards that you can give them. You can literally have them call the crisis helpline right there at any time. If you also want some of those, come by his office in student affairs. Okay. All right. This is one. I'll go through this really quickly too. This is one where a student, we've heard maybe there's a social media post. Maybe we've heard some information about a student maybe an imminent threat. So we still need to find out, yes, and we might do a wellness check. So this is maybe where you call Drew and say, hey, I saw a social media post on Joe below. Can you figure out what's going on with him? And he can actually call the police and walk through a wellness check. You could call the police and walk through a wellness check, and then they will go through their procedures. Residence Life does a wonderful job of helping out with wellness checks. If they live off campus, SAPD can do a wellness check and knock on their door and make sure that they're okay. If we're uncertain, again, always file an incident report with each of these steps. You can always consult with me or Drew. You can call the student. Again, if you saw a post online and they're one of your friends or acquaintances, I would want you to try to reach out to them. Maybe direct message them. Maybe if you have their number, text or snap them and say, hey, I saw this, I'm concerned. What can we do? So I will not go into this much longer just to save some time so we can get more practical with some of the other pieces. Any questions about that as I move away from it? Yeah. All right, you got this one, sir? We're going to do the role play. Okay? So keep in mind, we're both trained theater performers. Just kidding, we're terrible at theater, but we're going to try our best. So Drew is going to be the person of concern, and I'm going to be the helper. Okay, so you all in the room and obviously watching, give us some feedback when we're done in a second here. So Drew, how are you doing, man? I noticed that you haven't been to class lately.
Yeah, I've been going through a really, really hard time lately.
Oh, hang on, I gotta check my phone. Oh, sorry, text my wife. So hard time?
Yeah.
Is that all? What's been happening?
My best friend, he killed himself over the break. I was there at the house when it happened. Just been really struggling.
That is a lot, but I'm glad it wasn't you at least. That's one good silver lining, right?
Yeah.
How are you handling it?
Oh, I wish it was me.
Wow. So what are you gonna do?
Withdraw, I guess, since I can't focus on the school.
Well, here's a drop slip for you. All right. What happened there? How was that? Was that a good counselor or a good helper? What did you see that was terrible? Besides everything. What?
At the beginning, the cell phone, your attention.
Not present. Distracted. Yeah, I didn't give much time, much energy. What else? I did. Yeah, that was problem solving, right? All right, so that was obviously awful in many ways. So now we'll try one that might be a little bit better, okay? And again, if you were to come to counseling services, this is not the service you can get, right? All right, so, hey Drew, I noticed that you've been having trouble getting to class lately. What's going on?
I've had a really hard past couple of months. So.
Tell me a little more.
Yeah, I haven't talked about it a lot, but my best friend during the break, he killed himself. I was home for the holidays. I was in the house.
So, yeah.
I mean, not good, Be there to support the family and stuff. Just coming back going to school. Just have trouble focusing. Having my own bad thoughts now, like maybe it should have been me. It's kind of struggling with everything.
Trying to do school while all that's going on, it's gotta be really hard.
So, trying my best, but I don't know. I don't know if I need to talk to someone.
Have you thought about it? Like, it might be a good idea.
Yeah, I don't know. Do they have anything like that here?
They do. And I mean, first, I just want to say thank you for sharing it. It's hard to talk about. But we actually have a counseling center on campus where students can go and talk confidentially and freely. No one's ever going to know that you're there. But I mean, if you're seriously considering yourself, like, certainly want you to get to know. You willing to go over there?
Yeah. I guess I can give them a call.
I could give you the information, but I mean, if you have any time right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you're thinking like this, like these are pretty dark, heavy thoughts, like I'd rather just walk you over there if you're willing to go with me.
Yeah. Yeah. If you think it might help.
Yeah,
Do that.
let's go over there.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, how was that? Was that a little better? Okay, what did you see? Anything from that good list or bad list?
Need to get help and instead of
That's a great point. Yeah, say it again. Should have gave him a big hug too. No, but going back to your point, like I would not, if he was that serious, like I would not just want to be like, here's the ASU crisis helpline card. Like I would really want him to be seen. And if he refused, I might use my like influence in that situation to call the police and say, hey, dude, or maybe either opening these questions up to get a little bit more detail, or like said, hey, I got to call the mental health deputy because I don't want you to kill yourself. Anything else? Did it feel heavy, scary? Could you all have a conversation like that? Maybe. I mean, even though it was a performance, I mean, it still was pretty hard. And obviously, I wanted to do it well in front of you all to demonstrate. But I mean, that's a very real situation. And it certainly could happen. You can see it. So we'll move on unless there's any other questions about that. Don't do the first one, right?
Okay, yeah, we have about 10 minutes, so we won't keep you all past that, or 9 minutes to, so to submit a report is what I was talking about when we first started this. You'll go to angelo.edu/incident form. You can just go up to the search bar if you want, put incident form and on angelo.edu and pull it up, whichever way you want to do that. There it is right there. You can call me anytime you want. You can call me, you can email me. I'm always open. And then if we need to, we can talk, and then you can submit an incident report later, or I can submit one for you. Please don't think you only need to reach me through incident forms. Phone call, email, anytime. How do we pull up the incident? We're going to show you just real quick the actual incident form.
You're asking me for help on technology. Let's try. Let's hope it changes. Of course it didn't.
Did it? Well, I can just talk about it.
Let's give it one more second. Just take it.
There we go. So yeah, you can just search for it here. Incident reporting form, click on that. And here it is. So you'll scroll down. Now, real quick, I did want to make sure I told y'all this. So if you want to submit this anonymously, if you submit this and your name's on it, I've gotten these before, but then in the narrative, you say, I'd like to remain anonymous. I will do my best to try to keep it anonymous, but the student has a right to say, well, can I see that form? I'd like to read the form that was submitted. So I'll do my best, but if your name's on there, I can't guarantee you're anonymous. So if you did want to make sure it's anonymous, do not hit the enable additional features by logging in. Don't hit this, because if you hit this, then it's going to put your name up there automatically and it'll come from your email. And then of course, don't fill any of the information on you personally, your name, your position, your phone number, your email, because all that will come onto the report. If you don't do either of those things and then submit it, then it will actually be anonymous of who it came from, if you want to protect your anonymity. Then it's just real basic. You'll put in the details, the date, the location, the name of the parties involved, the student of concern, friends of concern, whatever, you'll enter them in there. Definitely their name. We got to have their name. Sometimes we actually get a report anonymous and doesn't have a name, so there's just nothing we can do with it. If you have the CID number, fine, you can put it in there. These, you can check these, but you don't have to focus too hard on this if you don't want to, but you can kind of say, behavioral concerns. Do you want a student just to be checked on? You can click welfare of a student. Did a friend of yours make some suicide remarks? That's there. Heightened emotional distress. So there's a whole bunch of different boxes there to check. And then down here in the narrative, probably the most important part, just tell us what's going on, why you're submitting the report. If you do submit this anonymously, please be as detailed as you can in that section, because I have no way of reaching out to you if I have any follow-up questions. And then there will be some boxes to check down here on if you police were called, hospital, anything like that, medical professional, just basic yes or no questions. Then down here at the bottom, you can attach documents. If you have a note that shows suicidal ideation, you can scan that and submit that to us. It would be very much appreciated. If you don't have any additional documents, then that's fine. Then you just hit submit the report, and then boom, it goes right to our Maxian system, and all of us get notified about it. Yeah.
On someone, and that's a part of what's wrong. With not being involved, or is that?
Yeah, no, I'm not going to, I'll reach out to the student, and see what's going on. But no, I'm not going to say, if you say you're concerned about someone's drug use, I'm not, well, we want to call UPD and say, get to the dorms right now. I think there's drug use going on. Now, I mean, if you say,
a more confidential. If that was like someone or something like change safety, whether going to health services or the bid.
But no, that's because you're coming strictly from a place of concern. So we don't want to get anybody arrested or anything. Now, of course, if you were concerned about someone doing drugs, like some people are smoking weed at the moment in Centennial, then you call you. But I've gotten a few reports like that, friends being concerned about friends because of substance abuse. So definitely. How we get back to the PowerPoint? I just click on it.
Yeah, and just if you came to counseling and you told me that, like, there's not a lot I can do because I'm not going to be able to reach out to the student that I don't know. So it really wouldn't go very far. So yeah, definitely do the form. That would be the best.
Let's get through this and just get the case studies. One real quick. Okay, yeah. So real quick, just to piggyback on what you're saying, I'm glad you asked that because Mark said it earlier. So when I contact students, it's from like he said, it's from a place of concern, and wanting to help, compassion. It's not, hey, someone submitted a report on you and they're pretty worried about you. Is something going on? What's up? What's happening? You know, it's nothing like that. It's I try to explain what my job is and the reason I'm contacting them, but I do my best to make sure that they know this isn't a punitive thing and this isn't any kind of punishment or conduct. I'm strictly there reaching out to them to see if they need anything, if we can help them in any way. That's what I always try to tell them. But my job is just to help you any way I can. Hopefully get you referred to some resources that might help you if you need it. So please don't ever think, like you said, you're tattling on a friend or anything like that. And I'll never treat it. We'll never treat it like that. So the big coordinator, once I get the report, I'll reach out to any relevant areas to pull information on the student or of concern if needed. We have a risk assessment tool that I'll use to kind of keep a standardized way of rating a risk. Are they mild, moderate, elevated, or critical? And then that tool just provides me with ideas for interventions. I'll make appropriate referrals to help the student, like I said. And then I'll do follow-up and case management as needed, just to check in, make sure they're doing okay with whatever's going on. So we're going to do case study just real quick, right? Okay.
If you have to go up forward, feel free to go. We're not going to be offended.
Let's see. Okay, here's a great one. Yeah, so we'll read the case study and then y'all just throw out what you would do. You receive a report about a student who is expressing disturbing behavior by removing himself from his circle of friends at various times. What would y'all do? Yeah, then seeing what he says and then yeah, for sure. And then that's good. Yeah. And then you can submit a report too and just say, hey, you know, maybe he expresses some things that are going on that you're like, I don't know, maybe he could use some help, you know. Yeah. But no, perfect what you said. And then, like I said, I just want y'all to remember, you can always follow up by submitting a report, and you can please say that in the report when you submit it. Say, I asked him what was going on. This is what he told me, and I thought maybe he might need some counseling or something. Like I said, then I'll reach out to him, and it'll be, you know, maybe if he needs further help, maybe we can help him.
That sometimes like the reports don't contain the outcome of that conversation. Like, would you want to see that disposition? Like, yeah, I talked to the student and this is what we kind of talked about, but
yeah, for sure. Yeah. And some of them we get that are like that, you know, I talked and this is what they said. But yeah, by all means, if you submit a report, put that in there. And then you might have I'm glad we're talking about that, because maybe he says, yeah, I've been struggling with some personal issues, but I've been seeing a counselor and they're really helping me. And I think I'm going to be showing back up more and stuff. Okay. We get reports submitted to us sometimes saying that, you know, I talked to the student and they said they're fine, they're going to counseling. So that's fine. You can submit that informational, but the students told you they're doing better. And by all means, if they start coming around more, you know, and you know they're going to counseling, then they're probably okay. They're handling the situation. I normally won't reach out to students who have already expressed that they're doing what they need to and things are starting to look up for them. I'll just file it informationally. But that's just information for y'all. After a class, a student shows you a Twitter post from an absent student in your class. The post shows the underage student partying and also cutting a tattoo on their arm. What would you do? So you see a post, underage drinking, cutting themselves, pictures of that. How would y'all, what would y'all do in that situation? If you saw it, when you saw the student?
I'd follow them. And then, you know, just sort of
Everything going okay? Do you need anything? Can I help in any way? And then, yeah, and if you have further concerns, like I said, by all means, submit a report and we can do some more follow up. you know, when it comes to cutting, there's cutting behaviors, self-interest behaviors. There's a lot, we tend to see a lot of that. And I know people can get kind of uncomfortable with this, but if you see your friend or a student in class and you notice fresh cuts on their arms, by all means say, hey, what happened? Are you okay? You know, and maybe they'll open up and say they've been struggling with something, you know, and then you can talk to them about that or put in a bit report. Do you have anything to add to that, Mark?
I'll just say, would anyone ask if they were in your presence if you are suicidal? Probably would too. I think, again, you're not trying to be the counselor, you're trying to get to the heart of it. It's just a cut. Just a cut. It's self-harm. It's a big deal, but it might not be suicidal, but try to figure out how intense they are with situations. All right, you want to do one more? Just go to resources. It's 404.
Yeah, we'll go to resources. Yeah, I really thank y'all for being here and us going over like this. So here's our resources. We got, like I said, the big coordinator. You can call me anytime. I'm in the student affairs office. Call me, email me. I'll usually get back to you pretty quick. The ASU Police Department, of course, we talked about that. Student services, we've got student affairs where I work. Crisis helpline, 24/7 professional licensed counselors for students in immediate crisis, and then counseling services. You can call or you can do a walk-in. I'd always recommend, if you're talking to anybody, recommend they walk in, because if they call, it might be a week or two until they're seen. But if you walk in on between 9 to 3, Monday through Friday, you'll be seen immediately. Do an intake and then schedule follow-up appointments after that. And then, yeah, here's our crisis helpline. I got magnets up here if y'all want to grab them. If you need cards, come by my office in student affairs. If you want more magnets, if you want more bit material, I have all of it. Just come see me. I think that's the end of it, right? Cool. Anybody have any other questions? No. Awesome. Thank you all for your time and coming in and being on the WebEx. Thank you all.